Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the Finding Balance podcast. I'm still thinking about changing the name of this thing, but for now, it is the Finding Balance podcast. My name is Dr. Adrian Mesa. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner. I'm the founder and CEO of AMP Mental Health. We are a mental health practice that offers both psychiatry and therapy across the lifespan. We use telehealth to do it, and we also have in-office appointments. We accept almost every major insurance, and we're here to help you guys. We believe wholeheartedly in not just pushing medications, but really in a lifestyle change, and looking at blood work and looking at the person's lifestyle, movement, nutrition, support, and all these things that really encompass mental health. So with that being said, what I'm going to talk about today everything in entrepreneurship involves mental health, but I asked ChatGPT to ask me some thought-provoking questions on entrepreneurship and on starting a new business. So let's just start with number one. What deeply held personal values will guide your decision-making process as an entrepreneur? Well, obviously, I'm in the mental health field. I'm working with people. I'm working with human lives and the human experience. Some of the personal values that I feel are pillars are empathy, empowerment, and education. And that's just across the board. Without me being able to empower people to understand that they are in control of their lives and their destiny and their day-to-day, they are in control of how they respond to the traumatic experiences that they've faced. They have the power to move forward, and they also have the power to withdraw. I have the empathy to understand that person who has the fuel to move forward, that person who has the desire to improve themselves. But I also have empathy for the person who's struggling. And then education, I want to impart education. I want to teach as we help. We need to educate them because knowledge is power. People need to know what's going on with them, why it's happening to them. Once they start gaining an understanding, then it helps them. It helps them. It's a major tool in them moving forward, because once you understand trauma and how it's impacted you, you start to realize, oh my God, this is a cycle that is continuing in my family. And now that I've identified this cycle, all of a sudden, I have the power to make a difference and change it. But if I don't see it, if I don't have the education to understand what it is, then I am blind to it. And if I'm blind to it, there's no intervention that's going to take place. And so all those things, I don't know if that question was answered directly, but what deeply held personal values will help guide your decision-making process as an entrepreneur? Yeah, just having compassion for people. I have people who come here all the time who sometimes just don't have the funds, and I have to decide whether or not or how I could help that individual. Obviously, this is a private practice. It needs to sustain itself in order to succeed. But I also know that part of the responsibility of owning a private practice is identifying individuals who truly need the help but are lacking access because of financial barriers and creating ways to help them. And question 2, how will you navigate the uncertainty and fear that often accompanies entrepreneurship? You face that fear head on. You have to go straight to that fear, because that fear and uncertainty is just your lack of preparedness. But the more that you face that fear, the more that you face uncertainty, the more it dissipates, the more it shrinks, the more it goes away. But now if you hide from that fear, if you don't try to learn more and that uncertainty continues to plague you, then that fear is only going to grow and it's going to paralyze you. So I truly believe that stepping into the fear is the only way to address it. It's the only way to navigate through the fear is to go straight through it. Question 3, what sacrifices are you willing to make to see your business succeed, and where do you draw the line? I mean, I want to do everything. I want to do everything to make this business succeed. Number one, I want to take care of my employees as much as possible, but I got to make sure that those employees are taking care of the business. The business is the real CEO. The business is the boss. My job as a CEO is to be a steward to take care and protect that business as much as possible. So if there is somebody within the business who, although I have a great relationship with them, but they're not fitting the mold, they're dropping the ball, they're creating chaos or some sort of toxicity within the business, it is my job to extract that individual. That is extremely important. That's extremely important for me to identify. And so those people become those sacrifices, because although they might be people who I have a personal relationship with, who I care about, once I identify the fact that they're not good for the culture and they're not good for the other individuals within the practice, that means that they have to go. It's almost like a diabetic. And when you think about a diabetic, they have to worry constantly about foot care. And let's say they have a toe that gets cut, and then that toe gets infected, and then that toe becomes necrotic. The remedy is not to just pray for the toe and try to help it and heal it. If you allow that toe that is infected, to that infection to reach the bloodstream, and that bloodstream infects the rest of the body, then you have a patient who is completely septic and can possibly die. Now, the remedy that people often use, and you'll see them, especially with diabetics, is they amputate. They amputate a toe, a foot, an ankle, below the knee, an entire leg, to salvage the rest of the body. And so that's what I have to do in terms of making a sacrifice for the business. Now, where do I draw the line? I draw the line with what I'm willing to do to make the business succeed is I won't do anything that's illegal. I'm definitely not I'm not touching any sort of fraud or anything else that I've seen other providers fall to in order to just make money. It's not necessary. I think that this business allows for so much growth and success. It's not going to allow you to be rich. I mean, at least I haven't seen the way just yet. But it could definitely lead to a pretty good life and some other opportunities that arise without doing anything shady. Question 4, how do you plan to address potential impact of your business on your mental health and well-being? It's simple. Self-care. Self-care, a strong support system, and having identifiable outlets that are positive and constructive in nature and not destructive. So the business is always going to bring some mental health issues in terms of stress, and it could impact your well-being. I've seen it myself. I've faced it. I think my cortisol levels were so high last year because we were having some issues with just cash flow and having insurance companies that weren't paying us, and we were just having issues with billing where I thought that the company was definitely going to go under. I had about 20 employees at the time, and I said to myself, wow, all this that I've worked on and built is slowly sinking. And now looking back, I realized what an impact that had on me, how much sleep I was losing, how much stress I was experiencing day to day. And when that money finally hit that account, I remember laying down on the floor of the conference room and just saying, wow, what a relief. In that time, I also realized, like, hey, I'm working out a lot and my body's not responding to these workouts. When I had my labs drawn, I realized that my testosterone had dropped significantly, and it was probably just due to the shock of all the stress that I was experiencing. So what did I do? I took care of myself. I took some more days at the beach. I took some more vacations. I stayed away from the office a little bit more to brainstorm and clear my mind. I started lifting weights more. I treated the lack of testosterone with TRT. I began taking a lot more supplements. I had labs drawn in order to identify like what micronutrients I was deficient in. So all these things were important. I went to therapy to just talk through a lot of what I was experiencing and feeling. What legacy do you hope to leave behind through your business endeavors? You know, a lot of people talk about legacy. A lot of people talk about leaving behind a legacy, and I'm just not one of those people. Because I know that, you know, one day Walt Disney's name will not even be understood as a famous person. There's famous people that lived in the 1900s and 1800s that if I said their name today, you wouldn't even know who they are. So I think legacy is a false premise where eventually all of our names are forgotten. And so I live for here and today and now and for my lifetime and for the people who surround me now. And I care and love each and every one of those people who are helping me on this journey. I'm not worried about what my name is going to mean in the future. I want to do the best that I can for myself now and for anybody that surrounds me, whether it is a spouse, whether it is your children or whoever it is that surrounds and supports you, your family members. I want to do what's best for them here and now because my name down the road isn't going to mean much to them. Now, do I want to set up my daughter down the road for living a better life and for her kids? Absolutely. But ultimately, that's also up to her. It's not up to me. How will you ensure that your business contributes positively to society beyond just generating profit? I mean, that's simple. In this field, I want to continue to break the stigma of mental illness. I want to talk openly about mental illness and what it means to us as a society. I want to normalize conversations about depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, panic attacks, seeking therapy, marital counseling. And I just want to make sure that people understand that this is necessary. And just as necessary as it is to seek physical health care, it's just as important to seek mental health care. And we have to end this whole thing of therapy and psychology just being this pseudoscience, because the truth is it could help so many people with the lens that they view life through. And if I constantly have this clouded lens where I have this perception of everything around me and I already know, and I'm looking at everything from a negative lens or from a lens of trauma or a lens of paranoia or a lens of they're out to get me, or these people are trying to trick me, or they don't have my best interest in mind. If I look through that lens in every aspect of my life, I'm going to be a very negative and miserable individual. Now, if I could start challenging some of those thoughts and start understanding, hey, where did I get this negative lens from? Oh, shit. My dad, my mom, my sister, my cousin, whoever it is that gave you that lens, the life experiences that you've had. You know, somebody who gets divorced and all of a sudden all they say is that marriage is shit. Well, I mean, let's sift through this. You had one bad marriage. You had one bad experience with love. Whatever the case may be, it needs to be addressed, and therapy is one of those ways to do it. So one of the ways that I want to contribute to society is just to break the stigma and break these false pretenses that exist surrounding mental health and mental health care. What fears or insecurities do you need to confront in order to fully commit to your entrepreneurial journey? I mean, if you're asking me, you got to just confront everything. I think most entrepreneurs, the fear or insecurity that holds them back has to do with them putting themselves out there on social media. A lot of them dismiss this, but I think social media is such a valuable tool that is free right now, and it may not be free in the future. And we have this tool that we hold in our hands that we could broadcast to thousands of people about our skill set, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and display our knowledge, our expertise, again, to either tens or hundreds or thousands of people just like that. And I think a lot of people are hesitant to do that. And I think it's a major mistake, because every single individual that I know that has a business that's doing well has a decent social media presence. The majority of people who I know who are entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs or have started a business that is stagnant and not moving, they have avoided social media. They have avoided it. They have said that they don't need it, that they're going to grow their business without it, that they just don't want to be on camera, that they don't want to be the face of the business. And I promise you, if they could break through that, all of a sudden, their business will grow exponentially. Because this is the way that word of mouth is created. Word of mouth is created through social media nowadays, because there's people that don't know me but follow me on social media, and they're the ones out there telling other individuals about me and what I do and my practice and the help and services that we offer. It's just the truth. So I think that's one major fear or insecurity that people need to get over, is being able to do what I'm doing right now. Use your voice, use your face, and talk openly on a mic and broadcast it on social media, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube stories, Threads, and anywhere else that you can put your face. How do you plan to handle the loneliness and isolation that can come with being a business owner? It's simple. You don't have to be lonely. You can find entrepreneurial organizations. You can join networks. You can find like-minded people who are pursuing things in their life to better themselves. You can just find other entrepreneurs and understand what they're doing, learn from them, learn from the systems they have in place, and move forward that way. So I don't think you have to. Are there moments of isolation? Sure. I'm sitting in an empty podcast room right now, talking on a mic, not knowing who's actually going to listen to this. But I know that my voice and my story has value. And I know it could help you, because I know if I heard this, it would help me also. Because I learned from the Vaynerchuks, from the Hormozis, from the Frisellas, from whoever else that you want to listen to. These are the people who are sitting in a room isolated, talking into a mic, because they know that their voice carries weight and carries value. And so how do I handle the loneliness and isolation that comes with being a business owner? I produce. I produce content. I produce ideas. I implement those ideas. I put them into action. And then I test. So this is nothing more than a huge experiment. You're the scientist, and you get to see if your hypothesis actually plays out or not. So I believe that if I am more active on social media, if I am more active on this podcast, even if it's me sitting here by myself speaking into a mic, that eventually more and more people will sit and listen, because they understand the message that I'm trying to deliver, and it is that you can do it too, because I have done it. If I have done it, you can do it. I am a kid from Hialeah. For those of you who don't know Hialeah, it is the city with the highest percentage of Cubans in the United States of America. It is basically a Latin American country within the United States. Most of everywhere that you go in Hialeah, everybody is speaking Spanish. My grandmother has been in Hialeah for over 50 years, I think, and she has never needed to learn a lick of English. So I don't even know how I got there, but yeah. I just think that if you understand that you put your voice out there, that you can make a major impact, and that's what I'm doing. And that's how I overcome the loneliness that accompanies entrepreneurship, is that I know that I'm not alone. And I know that this work that sometimes has to be done in silence, eventually will come to light, and it'll tell its story on its own. And it already is. It already is with the successes that I've had so far. And it already is with the failures that I can share with you, so that you don't step on the same landmine that I did. Right? So you don't make the same mistakes with hiring, the same mistakes with firing, with how you fire somebody, the same mistakes with ideas that you think are going to be great, but they're not. And I'll share those with you. I'll share with you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and that's why I'm here. What strategies will you employ to maintain a sense of perspective and balance amidst the inevitable highs and lows of entrepreneurship? Just don't get too high on the highs and don't get too low on the lows. Try to stay even. Stoicism is a beautiful thing. You can celebrate small successes, but with always understanding within your mind, not in the back of your mind, at the very forefront of your mind, understanding like, hey, I'm celebrating right now, but there's more work to do. We're just getting started. There's always going to be highs and there's always going to be lows. And as long as you're willing to continue moving forward, then you're going to win. But if you allow those lows to drown you, if those lows paralyze you, if they consume your mind and don't allow you to come up with new interventions or tactics to salvage what you have, then you will lose. How will you guard against becoming consumed by your business to the detriment of your personal relationships? I think no matter what, if you are in business and you're completely consumed by entrepreneurship, some of your relationships that are on the personal level will suffer. Um, because you may find that you don't have as much in common as you once did with the people that you usually hang around. And if they can't relate to your mindset and what's going on and how you're trying to better yourself and the sacrifices you have to make, then it's inevitable that some of those relationships will suffer. And it's okay. I feel like some relationships are intended to be for a reason or a season or a lifetime. And there's plenty that are just for a season. We love to demonize that and say, oh, wow, that relationship didn't last. And oh, this guy changed. Well, of course we change. We change because we are change because we are changing our lives. And it's inevitable to change your life without changing yourself, especially when you start to realize all that it requires to reach the heights that you want to reach. It requires the sacrifice. It requires you to change who you are and who you've been. And if anybody who tells you that it's not true is lying to you. Now, your personal relationships, you definitely have to, if you have to be a good steward of your family, the relationship you have with your kids, you have to still make time to go to the soccer game, to let her know or him know how much you love them, whether it's your spouse, your child. You have to put time aside for them. But they also have to understand that the sacrifices that you're making is for them. Involve them in that sacrifice. Let them see what you're doing. Let them be part of it. And all of a sudden, instead of it being to the detriment, it's going to strengthen your relationship, because now they feel like they're a part of something that's bigger than just the relationship you have with them. They know that you guys are building something together. Now that's going to help. What steps will you take to cultivate resilience and perseverance in the face of adversity? I mean, the more it's like these kickboxers that kick a bamboo tree, right? At first, their shins are extremely sensitive, but they become resilient. Their legs adapt, and they're able to just kick through a piece of bamboo. And I think the same is for us. How do you cultivate resilience? Is by, obviously, hypothetically, banging your head against the wall over and over and over again. And after a while, you start to realize, like, oh, this isn't that bad. I'm going to be okay. And then you can move forward. I think so many of us are just worried about the fall, the failure, tripping over something. And I think entrepreneurship is constantly tripping and failing and falling and getting back up over and over and over again. Understanding that this failure is a speed bump. It's a pebble in the road that you've tripped over. And then you're going to have your knee scraped, but then you're going to say, oh shit, I'm not going to fall over the next one that I see. And you move forward. How will you handle the pressure to constantly innovate and stay ahead of the competition? Listen, it's not even, the only competition that I have is me. And innovation is survival. Innovation is survival. You have to innovate if you're in a business. When COVID hit, nobody was using telehealth, and most people were not e-prescribing. The practice was brand new then, and I had to adapt and innovate and find out, how do I e-prescribe? How can I prescribe a medication where I don't need to write a paper prescription to send to the pharmacy in the hand of the patient? I need for the prescription to go directly from the computer to the pharmacy, to whichever pharmacy that patient will go to. I just had to find out, what's the process? How do I do this? What are the steps that it takes to do this? It was tedious. It took some time, but now I have 6 providers in this office that use ePrescribe. Now most providers in the community ePrescribe. Telehealth was the same thing. Now we're using AI for the front desk. It's the same thing. Now we are hiring abroad to have better support for the front office at a better cost than if I would hire here. It's just for the survival of the business. You have to innovate. You have to adapt. You don't have a choice. If you don't innovate and you don't adapt, your business will fail. This is survival of the fittest. What measures will you put in place to ensure that your business remains aligned with your original vision and purpose? Simple. I mean, I think just having that general understanding of why we're doing what we are doing. Within my practice, people know that I care, from the front office to the person who does billing, to the person who does insurance verification, to each and every one of my providers. If we have a negative review, we address the review. We ask the clinician what's going on. If we have a direct complaint, if we have positive feedback, everybody knows. So my job is to make sure whoever I am hiring fits the culture. There are plenty of people within healthcare that are just doing this for a check. I understand. It pays a decent wage. Now, do I want those people, although they're productive and they see patients, do I want those people as part of my team? No. I want people who go above and beyond to care for the patients that they are providing treatment to. And if they don't, then it's my job. It is my responsibility to be a good steward of the business, to maintain the culture, and to just make sure that the reason we're doing this hasn't been lost. How will you navigate the ethical dilemmas and moral gray areas that may arise in the course of doing business? I just don't go there. I mean, that's simple. If there's an ethical dilemma or some sort of moral gray area, you have to address them as they come, and just take it from there. I don't know how else to answer that question. What will you do if your business fails, and how will you redefine success in such a scenario? If my business fails, if everything goes wrong, which is extremely difficult, I know I could go back to being a solo provider. I would just start over, because I understand this business. I know how it works. I've been through the system long enough. I know the personnel that I need to surround myself with. I know how to set up at least some sort of a brand and brand identity. And it would just be my job to do the same thing. Hire somebody who knows Google Ads, hire somebody who knows insurance verification, hire somebody who, a solid social media person, and then at least one good provider to work alongside me and build it again. So what will I do to redefine success in such a scenario? I wouldn't. I would just know that I got to keep working. And I must have screwed up somewhere along the way, and I need to identify, how did I screw up? How did the business, quote unquote, fail? And how can I move forward in the future? How can I be a better steward of the business? Because I must have made some serious mistakes for this business to fail. I've already made some serious mistakes so far. But if it failed, what did I do? How did I screw up? Can I learn from it? Do the numbers make sense from a financial perspective? Can we rebuild? How much will that cost? And just go from there. It's crazy to say that now because I understand the business. I've been doing this now full time for 4 years. June 1st, it'll be 4 years. Had you asked me that before, I wouldn't know how to answer that question. It would be devastating. When you haven't been in it for a while and you haven't faced all these things and developed the resilience that I've developed and had the scares where I thought I was going to lose a business or had to make some major cuts to personnel, then all of a sudden I would definitely feel devastated. But right now I feel like I could do this again. I would have to hunker down. I would have to, just figure out how to cut my overhead. Do I need to move into a smaller space? What do I need to do to simplify my life, to have less overhead and grow a business? That's what I would do. And I think that's an issue a lot of you guys are having. You've created such an overhead that it's difficult, if not impossible, for you to take a risk because you're living a high life and you love the dinners out and you love the car you drive and you could never see yourself living with your mom again or your grandma or whoever. But guys, if you need to start over, there is zero shame. There is no shame whatsoever in living with your mom, your grandma, a family member, because number one, it's an opportunity for you to be with a loved one if they welcome you. And number two, it's a chance for you to rebuild your life, to reassess, and to really set a plan in place to propel forward. Now, if you use that time to just mooch and milk off of somebody else, then that's a different ballgame. But if you really use that opportunity, and I say opportunity, a lot of people are ashamed. I've seen it. Some of my buddies are people that I've just been around, and they make excuses as to why they're living with their parent, their loved one, their sibling. Who cares? If you're worried about my judgment, I'm a stranger. You might be finding more love in that home where you went back to than some people who are living in a high-rise in Brickell. But to them, that's the high life because they just like to say they're living in Brickell, but they might go home to an empty apartment and feel lonely all the time, wishing they had the love, the company, and the meal from that family or loved one. How do you plan to manage the expectations and opinions of family and friends who may not fully understand or support your entrepreneurial ambitions? It's not my job to manage the expectations or opinions of family and friends. It's not my job. It's not my job. You can have whatever opinions you want. You can have whatever expectations you want. But if you have expectations of me, you might be disappointed because I might not want to meet the expectations you have of me. I may not want to. I may not have the desire, or it just might not be in my plans to do what you want me to do because I have free will. And if my free will is driving me towards entrepreneurship and chasing my dreams and setting goals for myself and being ambitious, then, I mean, the expectations and opinions that you have of me don't mean anything. Are you contributing to me? Are you supporting me? Are you helping me? Are you giving me guidance? Are you giving me objective advice? If the answers are no, and you're just trying to control me, the decisions that I make, how I spend my money, how I invest in my business without you having any stake in the game, then sorry, it's not going to happen. That's like when a family member tries to tell you, you bring somebody new home and you really like them, and all of a sudden your mom is like, oh no, that's not the one. Well, who the hell are you to say that? Like, who are you to say that? Or if your friend tells you, oh, I don't really like her, and you're like, damn, but I really like her. So sometimes the expectations and opinions of others are irrelevant. What will you do if your business idea conflicts with your existing professional or personal commitments? I mean, it depends. What means more to you? The business idea or your existing professional or personal commitment? And what's tying you down to that professional or personal commitment? Are the personal commitments willing to compromise with you? Is the existing professional commitment worth it for you to risk or sacrifice? Are you really happy at the job that you're in? Do you not have the support of your loved one to pursue something that you really want to pursue? That's a problem. If I don't have the support of my loved one, of somebody who loves and cares about me, if I don't have their support for something that I really want to do, something I really want to pursue, then there's an issue there because now you're holding me back from living the life that I want to live. That I have a problem with. So you better make sure that you find people who are going to love you and support your dreams, because otherwise you're going to live a very disappointing life. How will you foster a culture of trust and accountability within your team, especially in times of stress or uncertainty? By being transparent, by not allowing just the toxic language and people to talk about one another behind each other's backs, by sitting people down and saying, hey, if you're having an issue with this individual, why are you talking to this other person about it? Have you sat down with her or him to address the issues at hand? Have you come up with an action plan to address how this should be remedied? If it's just gossip, you're wasting time. Now, if you're addressing the issues one by one and being transparent with the individual about how they're falling short, that's the way to do it. That's the culture that I want to have here. I think for the most part, we do have it. Do all businesses need work on this? Yes. Why? Because we're human. We're human. But yeah, in terms of trust and accountability, just be transparent. Transparency is everything. What strategies will you employ to combat burnout and maintain your passion and enthusiasm for your business over the long term? I think, it goes back to self-care. I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but self-care is it. Self-care. Oh, and not only that, combating burnout involves you having a sense of responsibility. If you are a caretaker or healthcare provider and you are burnt out, that means that the quality of care that you're delivering to that patient is going to suffer. That means it's time for you to change your role, decrease your hours, decrease your patient load, and find something else to do to remedy. And this also goes to any healthcare provider. That includes personal trainers. If you are serving the public and they are counting on you to help them, but you are burnt out because you are working too much, then it's time for you to start finding ways to decrease the hours that you're working, to do a little bit more self-care. But then it's also going to be up to you to find ways to remedy the lack of revenue, because I think burnout and revenue go hand in hand, because people are working harder and harder to make more and more. And yes, their paycheck looks better, but then they get used to that lifestyle. And for them to taper back, it becomes impossible. So just make sure that if you're burnt out, that you could assess yourself and start thinking about other ways to draw revenue that'll still make you happy, that'll still feed your passion without it costing the people that you're trying to serve. The last question, how will you measure the impact of your business beyond traditional financial metrics, and what indicators of success are most meaningful to you? Financial metrics are great. They tell you how healthy the business is, whether you can continue to hire, that you're doing things right, that the interventions that you've put in place, that they've worked out for you. But the indicators of success that are most meaningful to me are those reviews that I get, those texts that I get, those DMs that I get that say, hey, you changed my life. Hey, you saved my family. Hey, my marriage is better because of your practice. Hey, this provider that works for you, they really heard me. I wanted to take my own life, but they really helped me through the toughest times in my life. I want to hear the providers that work for me know that I'm on their team, know that I support them on this journey, whether they want to stay with me for the long term or whether this is just a bridge to take them to entrepreneurship. And that goes for every single employee in here. So what's most meaningful to me and what are the indicators of success from my business besides financial metrics? It's the people. Am I really serving the people? And that involves not only the public that comes here from the outside, but also the personnel that works here on the inside. Anybody that we come in contact to, we have about 220 something reviews on Google with a 4.8 star. I don't know if there's any other practice in South Florida with that many reviews and that higher rating, but I strive for that. I strive to have high quality care. And it's not just about numbers or finances. It's about the people that we serve, and it's about the people that are serving those people, which is the people who work under the umbrella of A&P Mental Health. So that's it, guys. That's just a little something on entrepreneurship and becoming an entrepreneur, and some questions that you might want to ask yourself, or maybe some just thought-provoking questions that help drive this conversation. I'm going to keep trying to do this daily. And if not, just a couple times a week, putting out content, putting out a podcast on Spotify and YouTube, and saying a lot less. So thanks for just joining me. And that's it. If you enjoyed the show, if you know a healthcare provider that should hear this, if you know somebody who's seeking entrepreneurship that would benefit from this conversation, share it with them. That's the only way to get exposure. I don't pay for ads. I don't do anything. I put this out there to provide you with value and to share my experiences with all of you. So thank you very much, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.